Happy Monday, everyone. Not so happy for so many that were affected by crime over the weekend, and yet our cities and DAs and mayors and political parties do absolutely nothing for you and me, for the little people that care as they push their political agenda, because that matters more than your safety, as always. But let's get into it on the Derek O'Shea Show. Welcome to the Derek O'Shea Show, where we discuss culture, news, politics, and more. Sit back, relax, and I hope you enjoy the show. Be sure to tell your friends and family about the revolution. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day to hang out with me. It means a lot to me. It seriously does. And if you don't mind sharing this news story, this news segment on every single podcast platform, I would greatly appreciate it. Or, get in your neighbor's face and tell them about the Derek O'Shea Show, because it would mean a lot to me if you did so. Also, if you want to support me, go to buymeacoffee.com/Derek O'Shea Show, buymeacoffee.com/Derek O'Shea Show. All one word. I would greatly appreciate it. This weekend was a good reminder of why politics gets in the way of safety, politics gets in the way of what you need to survive. Politics gets in the way of everything in life. Instead of actually addressing root cause issues, as Kamala Harris and her going to the border to find out the root cause, as opposed to actually addressing what needs to be done. And that is kind of how I feel about all our politics at this point, is that 99.9% of the things out of their mouth, I don't care, Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter, are just BS. And they're just telling you what you want to hear to appease their base and not actually addressing issues. I feel like 90% of what politics is in today's culture is just social media influence, and that's all it is. And being worried about what people are saying about you on social media, news sites and stuff like that and whatnot, instead of actually addressing the root cause issues and helping your helping the people that vote you in. They don't care about that anymore. As we saw crime ravage across the country in Wisconsin, Chicago, and California. Devastating news out of Wisconsin. Elizabeth Fry once said, "Punishment is not for revenge, but to lessen crime and reform the criminal." We have a problem in our culture. We have a problem in our politics that is so obsessed with not giving out punishment, not giving out correction. They're happy to correct some behaviors, but real crime that affects you and I, they're happy to correct the January 6th riot/protest. They're happy to address that, talk about it every single day. But real crime that goes on in the streets, that goes on in your backyard as, Summer of Love riots and protests, that stuff affects you and me. It doesn't affect politicians, and therefore they don't care about it. Chicago this weekend. 14-year-old boy killed among 5 others who were shot this weekend in Chicago. 34 people were shot, including 6 teens. Just a normal, everyday thing in Chicago. DAs, they get the criminal. These cops that go out and bust these people and try to stop these people, it's at the point where it's useless, because the DAs just let them off, as we see of what happened in Wisconsin. Then we have the Bay Area and Los Angeles. If you steal under $1,000, you're totally fine. The Bay Area is hit with the 3rd consecutive day of looting as a 50-strong Hammer gang storms jewelry stores after Macy's and Lululemon stores were hit. Thieves take advantage of the woke misdemeanor law. The San Francisco Bay Area faced its 3rd consecutive day of brazen shoplifting. So these teens are just going in, stealing a bunch of stuff. No big deal. Residents and the business owners in the area cite a 2014 law that downgraded the theft of property less than $950 in value from a felony charge to a misdemeanor for the rise in thefts. Of course it is. They also blame the woke San Francisco District Attorney, Chelsea Bolden, for a rise in crime. He now faces a recall election amid fury over the soft crime. These Democrats are like, why aren't my Democratic policies working? We're just going to put in a different Democrat and maybe they'll come down harder. Maybe they'll actually address the crime. I remind you again in Chicago this weekend, so much of what goes on in Chicago is unreported and no one gives a crap about, but it's an actual effect of what's going on in a lot of our liberal cities as crime has gone up drastically. As we're so focused on, lessening sentencing, and everyone's innocent if they're imprisoned, and we don't want to punish these people because that's harsh and that hurts their feelings. Instead, we have an issue in our culture of holding people accountable for actual crime, for actual things in life. We just encourage people to be let off. Allow people to get off on things that normally in old society they would be rebuked, they would be put in prison, they would be beat up, all kinds of stuff. They'd be corrected. And now we have a society of criminals who feel emboldened and encouraged in what they do and see because, they're getting let off. Because why wouldn't you? It's just like a kid. If a kid is going around punching people in the face, and what once was something that would get you kicked out of the school or put you in jail, now is seen as, I'm going to talk to you in my office. Come in here and I'm going to say something to you, young man. Stop punching people. I'm serious. Or we're going to have to do something about it. Okay? I'm serious. I'm going to put you in timeout. Or I'm going to let you go home and not have to do any homework. You figure it out, young man. We have a society that it's just another our homeless problem. A lot of homeless problems, some of them are on tough times, and that's another thing. A lot of them are mental illness, and a lot of them are drug addicts. And we refuse to do anything about it, and so we just let them run the streets. You need consequences for your actions, or else there's anarchy. There's nothing wrong with anarchy if it's true anarchy. I mean, we could have that discussion all day long because I feel like in true anarchy, the citizens would rise up and not allow something like that to happen. Whereas we have governments and DAs, police forces, mayors, governors that encourage it, promote it. And if you talk negative about it, that's racism. Shut your mouth and just deal with the high crime rates. That's actually just a Republican conservative talking point. None of this is real. We can all just shut our mouth. Over the weekend, we had Milwaukee's DA come out and say, oh, sorry about the whole, people getting run over in the freaking streets during a parade. The $1,000 bail we gave to the dude was a mistake. We should have gave him higher bail. Milwaukee County DA admits it was a mistake to grant $1,000 bail to SUV driving felon days before he smashed into a Christmas parade. Darrell Brooks was freed after running over mother. Darrell Brooks was freed after running over mother of his child and now so he's already run over somebody else. Now charged with homicide after killing 5 people. And there's many others in the hospital. Darrell Brooks Jr., 39 years old, is a driver of the red Ford SUV that plowed into crowds on Sunday at the parade. Brooks was bailed out of jail on November 19th, posting a $1,000 bail on charges of battery, disorderly conduct, bail jumping, and resisting an officer. Hey, quit putting all kinds of people in prison. The prisons are racism. So if they look a certain way, you can get off. But if they look one way, we're going to put them in federal penitentiary. Well, like those January 6 people, they're disgusting. Brooks said to have hunted her down, talking to his mother of his child, hunted her down in a hotel, then followed her in the street with his car, demanding that she get in before punching her with a closed fist and running her over. And then what I saw on Twitter over this incident immediately was disgusting. Here's an Illinois Democrat who used Kyle Rittenhouse to mock the Waukesha tragedy, and she resigned. Thank God. But this is what she writes. It was probably just self-defense, according to her, Mary Lemansky. And you know what? She wasn't alone. I saw it all over Twitter. Blue checkmark, very empathetic leftists. These people that are promoted on Twitter, YouTube, stuff like that. These people with the voice of a generation, the voice of the people. It's okay to say. Because you know what? You're in your tribalistic mindset that you can just say and whatever the freak you want, even though it's the most ridiculous thing. Not only that, I saw all weekend people trying to compare Kyle Rittenhouse to cases that had nothing to do with the same thing. They just took a white kid that got off on charges that was a clear self-defense charge, according to me, and obviously the jury. But you saw all weekend long Democrats were doing other circumstances with kids that got caught for things that were in completely different cities, with completely different cops, completely different DAs, completely different jury selection. And not only that, over the weekend, a black man also got freed of the crimes of self-defense when officers entered his house illegally. So, that story doesn't make the news, but this does. Though we have a problem in our society. We have a political class that is obsessed with not punishing crime. And we're just allowing it to happen in our cities. The Darrell Brooks situation in Wisconsin is a tragic and terrible event. But it's also root cause of a lot of DAs and Democratic principles and policies that are in place in major cities, because this city is just right outside of Milwaukee. This isn't like some far neighborhood out in the middle of nowhere. It's poured into other cities. And again, I just want to remind people again that over the weekend, Chicago had 34 people shot and a 14-year-old boy was murdered. All right? There's real issues going on, and Democrats don't care. They're so focused on their narrative-driven policies that aren't based on reality. I mean, you saw it all weekend. You saw Democrat supporters, these TV talking head people that are borderline useless, saying things about the Kyle Rittenhouse trial when they clearly didn't watch anything, nor did they ever watch the video, the HD video that came out. It was just clear. We're so entrenched in our tribalism, we can't even see truth from fact. Truth from fiction is the word I was going for, or fact from fiction. And these people are so focused on getting people off charges so their jail cells aren't filled with certain races of people. They're so focused on woke politics where if you look a certain way or act a certain way or vote a certain way or, it's okay if you riot and kill people, Black Lives Matter, in the name of Black Lives Matter, that's okay. But if you do it in self-defense, we need the whole country to come down and the president needs to talk about it and say that there's more work to do. And the vice president said that she thinks that there's needs to be more work to be done and stuff like that. But we have a huge issue in our cities. Again, 34 people shot in Chicago this weekend. A 14-year-old boy killed. 5 people were ran over in a Christmas parade this weekend. San Francisco has a looting spree. If you steal less than $950, it's a freaking misdemeanor. We have a culture of people that don't want to hold people accountable, especially based on what they look like, because they don't want to be framed as racist. They don't want their policies to be framed as racist. They're so concerned about what people think and feel about them. My encouragement to you, my thoughts to you, is to vote these people out. Go to the cities, make a difference in people's lives, because there is real pain and suffering in a lot of our major cities in today's world. A lot of pain and suffering. And we need conservatives and Republicans and anti-fringe, smart, logical thinking people to go in these cities and make a difference rather than just run away. I know that there's like this consensus around a lot of conservative, prominent figures that talk about just leaving cities, and that's all they care about. But no, there are people in cities that need help. There are people, what goes on in the homeless communities, the drugs, the abuse, what goes on at the border, the abuse, the sexual abuse, the human trafficking, the cartels that have just completely taken over, the fentanyl that gets crossed over our border. Crime is not a thought in a lot of Democrats' minds. They think it's a Republican, conservative talking point. But they're finding it harder and harder to use that as leverage when you see things that goes on in Chicago, Milwaukee, California, New York, the border, so much. Vote these people out. Make a difference in someone's life. Engage in your local politics. It's the only way this stuff will change. Make sure when you go to your ballot and you vote for these people, town council and stuff like that, school board, that you know who you're voting for. Because we're so obsessed with our freaking president. We're so obsessed with voting the right president in that we forget where the battle is. It's on the ground. Engage in your local politics. Don't be afraid to. Don't be afraid to speak up, because the less people speak up, you get more stuff like this. You get 34 people shot on the weekend. You get people that, that are just allowed to get off bail so easily. When his rap sheet, if you look up this guy's rap sheet, it's ridiculous. Just freed, whatever. No consequences. So, but that is a systemic, that is something that is penetrated. I hate that word. That is something that has just infiltrated the way a lot of our politics and the way our newscasters talk about how, people are put away for so long for doing such petty crimes. We're doing the opposite now. We're emboldening our crime. We're encouraging our crime because people are getting let off for things more and more because our jail cells are more full, and there's less cops on the streets due to, stigma and also, literally funds being taken away. The only answer is to pay attention to what's going on, vote these people out, and make a difference in people's lives, because this is just devastating. What is going on in our streets and our cities? Our politicians are more obsessed with themselves, their selfies, their likes, their live feeds, their little snippet videos, their talking points, going on MSNBC, going on Fox News, than they are about actually fighting and cracking down on this crap. Crime should be a forefront issue for Republicans in 2022. But as I always say, I don't care about poll numbers, and I barely care about that stuff. I care about what's going on in our cities and in our local communities, as people like this guy just get let off over and over again until they do something drastic and horrible. Because people are so concerned with not looking racist, not looking unwoke, not looking, I don't know. People are so scared of being called out for things. I get called out for all kinds of stuff that make no sense. I always tell people, you care about what people think of you? Start a political podcast, and you'll learn real fast to not care about people's opinions, because opinions are like buttholes. Everyone has one. Let me know your thoughts on this. This story is devastating and incredibly sad, but it's also going around in our country everywhere. Again, a story that's not even talked about on a 14-year-old boy shot in Chicago. killed. 14 years old. That's 8th, 9th grade. 34 people shot in Chicago. They don't care about these cities. They don't care about the crime. They're more concerned with looking empathetic when they're not being empathetic. They're being empathetic in the wrong ways. Empathy doesn't necessarily mean that you can get off scotch-free and do whatever you want because you're like, hey, you had a hard life or blah, blah, blah. Empathy sometimes comes in the form of being disciplined and punished for your crimes and your actions. Sometimes the most empathetic thing is teaching people to stop. I mean, what's the answer? I wish there was more communities that were like Kyle Rittenhouse that stood up, stop relying on politics and their politicians and their police force and all that stuff to save them and actually stand up for their communities and stand up for what's right. I wish there was more people that, yes, black, brown, Asian. I don't care what color you are. I don't care. I saw a story of a father and daughter walking with BLM protesters over the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict, both carrying AR-15s. Were they AR-15s? I don't know. I don't know what the actual who made them and if they were technically, but they were assault-style weapons. And people were like, "Oh my God, look, see, conservatives, you guys are freaking." I could care less. I want that. I want more community policing because we have a culture of people that are so scared to stand up. If there was more people that would just stand up and say, enough of this crap. I'm protecting businesses because by protecting businesses, it'll make the community better, more healthy, safer, more jobs, and just the overall health of the community will go up. And it'll stop emboldening these criminals to feel like they can run the streets. And that needs to stop. I need more community policing, more men to stand up for what's right. If you're scared about doing that, go take jiu-jitsu classes. I don't know. Go take boxing classes. Go take taekwondo. Take a class and learn self-defense. Know your gun laws well and use it as a way to protect and stop criminals. Because obviously, the politicians, Democrats could care less. And I would love to see more churches standing up against this because we're supposed to bring true justice to this culture and we're supposed to bring peace. And if you're not bringing peace to communities, what are you doing? You're not actually being a social justice warrior. Social justice warrior doesn't mean you're only for LGBTQ rights. You could also be for, peace in your community. Let me know your thoughts. I appreciate you guys so much. I hope you guys have a freaking fantastic day. And as always, I'll catch you on the next episode of The Derek O'Shea Show.